How's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the Boruto anime. Today we're going to be talking about episode 158, which involves Team 7 going on a new mission. And Mr. Victor from the car organization has a little bit of a prominent role in this episode as well. So how was the episode? Well, before we get into that, if you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe, as I plan on covering the car actuation arc for its entire run, and probably as it goes into the hour arc. Anyways, let's get on to that review. Now, a few things to note at the beginning of this episode. So, Mr. Deepa, number 7 in the car organization, makes a very brief appearance at the very beginning of this episode. So, I guess we'll see more of him later on, since that was his only appearance in this episode, but it looks like he might be more involved in next week's episode, so I guess we'll see. But I did like the moment with Boruto and Sasuke. Obviously, Boruto's impatient. He wants to go and find Kara, and obviously Sasuke knows what kind of danger they could possibly be in. Warns them, yeah, don't rush things or else you're just waiting to die. But interesting thing happens here is Boruto's practicing with kunai or whatever, or the star kunais, and ends up destroying the wooden target plate, like, out of nowhere. So, I guess his karma powers are, starting to slowly kick in, like early, but yeah, he just literally cut that in two out of nowhere, so I thought that was a pretty interesting scene. Anyways, Sasuke basically tells Boruto to focus on his missions for now, and he does just that. It's just that Boruto, he's not very enthusiastic about this mission he's got to do. So, his mission in Team 7 is basically to find this missing person for this lady, and yeah, Boruto's not too happy about it. However, Team 7 and Konohamaru actually have somebody that's joining them for the mission, and it's none other than Mujino. And I actually quite like what they did with Mujino here. He's got a very no BS attitude. He's very serious, and he basically was sent to smaller nations where conflict is on the rise, and he even mentions it in this episode that even though the 5 great nations are at peace, the other smaller nations, they're, in fact, have become more violent as a result of the peace, because that's basically where the criminals are basically lurking at, or all the, the underbelly of the shinobi world. They're basically hanging out in these, poorer areas, so crime and, violence is on the rise in those areas. But the 5 great nations are at peace, but Regino, he's very serious about the mission. He basically has to remind Boruto multiple times not to be, too trusting of people, which comes up a few times in this episode. Next, we head off to the Land of Valleys, where this part of the arc is taking place at, in which they meet up with the contact for the mission, which is a young lady whose husband went missing several weeks earlier with his team. Basically, I can't really remember exactly if it was a mission or if they were just on doing some research, but they ended up going missing, and she reached out to the medical facility they worked at, and they literally won't give anything out, and they just basically say it's classified information. They won't say anything. So they all head out to the medical facility and try to get information from the front desk receptionist there, and she is just not giving them the information and not saying anything. She gets hysterical, and Konohamaru and Mujino have to basically restrain her. And in the midst of that chaos, Mitsuki uses a snake to basically look at the computer screen while this is all going on, distracting everybody, and manages to find out, basically pinpoint exact kind of where he was last at, or where the incident took place at. So they all head outside, and Mitsuki basically tells them what's up, and that he actually got data in the midst of all that chaos. And the young lady actually gives them basically a little letter of areas that her husband liked to visit, and that he would take her to one day, which helps them later on in the episode. Now, as they head off to the spot where the husband of the lady, whose name is Mr. Anedo, where Mr. Anedo basically disappeared at, they're actually being followed by a number of shinobi. And it turns out that the shinobi are working with Victor. Now, Victor actually has his portrait over at the medical facility, and he was mentioned over there, so Boruto and the others recognize him. Now, I actually quite like this part, because Victor was a character that barely appeared in the manga. So now we know a little bit more about him, and we know now that he was actually injured in the Fourth Great Shinobi War, so he essentially was a victim in that war, and was injured for life as a result. It sounds like he was a normal civilian before all this, so because of probably all this, he somehow got involved with Kara sometime later on down the road. So I actually find all this to be very interesting. But he's somebody that wants to, create a medical facility for everybody, for normal civilians that get injured. I thought that was pretty interesting. But he also wants to create, organs, limbs that are missing through regenerative DNA. So it's probably why the Hashirama Cells episode is coming up soon. It's probably something he wants to do, wants to be involved with. So I actually found this all to be very interesting. Anyways, we head off to one of the locations that Mr. I think it's Anedo. Yeah, Mr. Anedo was last at, as they actually gave that letter from the wife of Mr. Anedo here to Victor, and he actually manages to pinpoint one of the areas that he could possibly be at. So they head off over there, and they manage to find Mr. Anedo, but yeah, it seems like he's kind of a bit of a zombie. He's going berserk, and in the next episode, it looks like he's going to attack Boruto and the others. Another thing, too, is that Majino obviously tells Boruto not to be trustworthy towards Victor, but also not to be trustworthy of him, so I thought that was also a pretty nice scene as well. But anyways, the episode comes to an end, and next week's episode actually looks pretty interesting. So I actually found this episode to be actually quite good. I actually like the exposition it gives to Victor. We get to know a little bit more about him, because as I said earlier, he's barely in the manga. And the fact that we're actually getting more screen time with him. And the fact of the matter is, I like the fact that they're expanding it so that, some of the inners, there's a little bit more personality to them. Because sometimes the manga is a bit bare bones, so you don't really know a whole lot about these characters or their background. So I really like what they're doing with Victor here. It's basically building the world building here with, Victor owning a medical facility and basically being the owner of it. So he's probably a revered person there, and for what he's done over the years. So, especially in the years since the 4th Great Shinobi War. So I like what they're doing there. I'm just curious to see what Deepa's role is going to be. I think I kind of know, but I'm wondering what they're going to do with that character. I hope Deepa is not another Urashiki. That's all I hope for that character. But so far, so far so good for this arc. That's 2 in a row that have been good so far. So hopefully the next couple of episodes are good as well. So anyways, that's all I got for this episode review. So I'd probably give it maybe an 8 out of 10, 7.5, 8 out of 10. So pretty solid episode overall. And I'm very curious to see how this arc goes in the future. Anyways, guys, what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later for the Pokemon Journeys review. Stay safe out there, everyone, and have a great day.